Welcome to So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. Are you evaluating your career in real estate? Feel like you're ready for a fresh start? Or ready to take your career to the next level? This is your podcast. Welcome back to So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. I'm Meredith Fogel, along with my co-host, Alicia Soekawa. Hello, Alicia.
Hello.
Right before we got on to start recording here, Alicia was showing me her folder of prospects and the fact that is that what that is, a folder of prospects?
It's actually a listing folder, and it's the key. I attached the keys and all my crazy notes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I got this one. I got two signed last weekend, so these two are coming up here soon. And so it's kind of funny. We were just talking about getting listings and how do you get people to sign. And I said I always go in for. We were talking about closing, right? The importance of closing. So many people don't understand to close the
And
deal. They kind of leave it hanging, like, "Ooh, let me know when you're ready." That's not a close, people.
right.
You have to get people to sign on the line. And one of my soft closes is I always say when we're sitting down at the kitchen table is, oh, before I forget, let me get a copy of your keys.
Okay, so I want to get there. So just to give a little bit of prep. So this show, we are talking about going for the close.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. So we just came back from Tom Ferry's Elite Retreat, and we had a presentation by Terry Shodine. And I'm going to spell her last name because it is not at all spelled the way that it sounds. It is Sjodin. She was a phenomenal presenter, and she wrote a book that I really enjoyed called Presentation Ready. Alicia, you've read it. And
Yes.
Alicia actually had the privilege of being personally coached by Terry and
Yes. She's
taught some
terrifying.
presentations, which was terrifying. And it's funny because
Much loved her, but I mean, it was intense 48 hours of my life. Let's put it that way.
I
Like a
mean, that's
boot camp.
pressure makes diamonds, right? And look,
Yeah.
you got a lot of presentation skills out of it. But one of the things that Terry talked about during her presentation with us is, and what she kind of specializes in is helping people become very skilled in like small sales presentations. So she's not like teaching people how to do like keynote speeches necessarily, but teaching people how to get more successful in their smaller person to person or person to group presentations. And one of the things that she said, she asked all of us was, what do you think the top reasons are that people feel like they maybe are like failing in their presentations? And so she had us all think about it. So think for a minute as you're listening to this podcast, just like inventory in your mind. If you've gone on a presentation and you have not gotten a listing, and if you've been doing this for a while, everybody's been through it, or you've had a buyer consultation and you haven't gotten the buyer to sign, or you've shown a house and you haven't been able to get the buyer to the next step to make a decision. Those are all places that we could be closing, and that we use our communication and presentation skills to get our sellers to a specific point or our buyers to a specific point, which benefits them, thereby benefiting us. But there are reasons that that doesn't happen. So think for a second, what do you think the reasons are? Alicia, do you remember what the top 3 reasons were?
We just didn't get the buy-in, number one. Like we weren't hearing their need.
That's what
And
one was, right? There was failure to listen. People came up with that.
Mhm.
What else do you remember?
It was boring, so they kind of toned out of the presentation. That was the number one thing that they totally like zoned out
The
and
audience
weren't
felt it was
listening.
boring. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Which I thought was hysterical and it's
yeah,
completely true.
yeah,
And you didn't answer any of their needs. Like
yeah,
is it the money? Is it that there's like all these different reasons why people purchase.
yeah.
And if you don't check certain boxes, they're not going to move forward. And if you don't ask for it, they're not going to move forward.
Right. So the way that this translated was that it was very interesting because there was a whole study about what the presenter perceived had gone wrong versus what the audience member perceived had
Hmm.
gone wrong. So the audience members felt they weren't heard, their needs weren't addressed, or the presenter was boring. For the presenter, what the top identified pieces of like areas of opportunity or misses were number one, that they were winging it, so going in without an established presentation. Number two was that they failed to close.
Hmm.
And number three, I'm blanking on, hold on, I don't think it was lacking confidence. There was another one in here. Let me get to this. I got my notes. I've talked about this so many times since, and I completely don't remember now. Well, I'm gonna have to get to it. But the point here was that when we go in, feeling unprepared, if I can talk. We are feeling like we don't know what to do next in order to close because we don't have the scripts in place. So I'm always shocked. Are you, Alicia, you tell me, are you ever shocked by the fact that people don't have a formal listing presentation when they go in after like decades of doing business?
No, I'm not surprised because I think a lot of people go in when they get, because a lot of people get listings for people that they
Hmm.
or they just kind of feel like they're going to get the listing. They
Right.
go through the comps and they say, all right, this is what we're doing, and that's
Mhm.
it. I think the thing is you have to figure out what's important to the seller in that moment is because not everybody has the same importance. Some people they don't really care about the sale. They just want it to get done. They're the
Yeah.
drivers, they're on a timeline, they need to get out of there. They're more willing to let go of the money they're gonna make to have a fast sale. Does that make sense? So they don't
Yeah.
care. They just want to know it's going to get done and what's going to get done and how fast is it going to be. Then you have your people that are obsessed with the marketing. They want to know what are you doing with marketing? I want to know all the marketing that you're going to do. And then there are people that could care less about them. So I think it has a lot to do with the personality. I think that's why DISC is so important, understanding where your client's coming from. If you have a high C person, they're going to want to know all the comps and the data. They're going to want to know price per square foot, and they're going to want to understand why this isn't going to be worth more money. They did these things to the house. They want to explain every single little thing to you. And if you don't hear that and take value to all the things they've done, they're going to find that offensive, I think. And then, it just depends on who you're dealing with, right? And so just like you have your OCD clients that everything impeccably done, perfectly decorated, and they're like, oh my God, our house is so filthy. And you walk in and you're like, it's so nice. And then you have your people that are like disgusting and they think their house is perfect. It's like, I don't really know what to say about that. It's just so funny how people are so different. But I think it's about as agents, we have to be chameleons about how to push and not push when it's time. And so
Mhm.
that's a very hard thing. It's different than a typical presentation. So I understand what she was trying to teach us at that meeting, but I do think it's a little caveat with our business because homes have emotion in it. And when there's emotion involved, it's not just doing a presentation. It's about connection and building the trust. And if they
Yeah.
don't trust you, I don't care what you have going on, you're not going to have buy-in on anything because they're
Yeah.
always in the back of their mind going to say, why are you pushing me? Does that
Well,
make
here's
sense?
what I'm going to say though, is I think when she was saying winging it, I think there's a difference between being prepared and having a listing presentation because everything you
Yes.
talked about is being
Yes.
prepared.
Yes.
Understanding personality styles is being
Yeah.
artful in communication,
Yes.
developing your listening skills very effectively. So you have to be really, I mean, that's almost more important to be prepared in that way. Now, I do think you need to have a presentation and data and statistics because you might have an analytical who needs you to pull that out and have that all
Yeah.
in front of you. And the other thing is that creating that connectivity, understanding what the sellers need allows you then to show them, let's say there's a couple of things. There's personality style, though there's also NLP, neuro linguistic programming, where somebody is going to be auditory, visual, or kinesthetic. And if they're a visual and you don't have a graph to show them, you can tell them all day long. They're still not going to absorb the information the same way as they would if you showed it to them. So I found in my notes, this, you can see this is a real show that I blanked out like that because I've talked about it a million times. So it's winging it. It is failure to close and being overly informative, which I think translates to being boring for most people.
Well, also, like, remember when the NAR stuff was happening? I think people were over talking about it to the point where
Yes.
people were shut down and they're like, well, I don't even know what's going on.
Is
Like,
that important to them? Right.
it
And that
didn't
was
even
a great
matter. I
thing.
was like, it doesn't,
Yes.
it has nothing to do. Like, we don't
Right.
need to tell them all of it was just getting out of control. Michael was one that brought that up to me. I was telling one of our clients that, and we went to dinner with them, our good friends, and he was like, too much, Alicia.
Oh,
He goes,
interesting.
too much, too much.
Interesting. Well, and I think this is the other piece too, and Terry brought this up, is if we're giving information, does it pass like the so what test? Is it
Yes, that's a
important to the
very, so
person?
what this means to you is, and I
What does,
think what
right.
this means to you is so important explaining, like when you're doing a feature, there has to be a benefit. The benefit is what this means to you. So
Yes.
like why you want to list because this means to you, it's if you list in spring market, it's kind of highest visibility. If you wait till July, it's not going to be so much. What this means to you is like getting this done is that your house is going to sell faster, sellability. What this means to
Yeah.
you is you have to be able to explain people to people why things are being done. Now, I will say this, the two listing appointments I went on this weekend, I had my listing presentation with me, but I didn't pull it out.
Because you didn't need to, because
I didn't
you
need
met the
to, but I
client
was ready.
connection.
I didn't pull it
Yes.
out.
So we always want to be prepared and ready. And to your point also, and I love this point that you just brought up, and I think it's important to kind of dig into a little bit, is that you said, what this means to you is every I statement needs to have a you that comes after it. It should never be, I do this, I do this, I do this. And that's important to you because, but you can't just say it's important to you because you think it is. You also need to be able to say something like, because of the fact you said, which is a good old Phil Jones one-liner there, which is because of the fact you said. So you earn the privilege of providing information by first understanding what the seller's need is. So
Yeah.
because of the fact they said they need to draw the proceeds from their home to buy their next house
Yes.
by March 31st, we need to price in a specific way. Or
Yes.
this is why having a marketing strategy like mine is so important, because making your listing famous is going to ensure those proceeds are available for you. So they don't care what you do for them unless it directly relates to a need that they have.
100%. That's exactly right. And I think that's what's so important is understanding every person's needs are different
Yeah.
and every person's going to, like I had a person once take a lesser offer because they were going to give him like this rent back for the longest time.
Yes.
And
Had that.
they
Yeah.
were willing to do that and it didn't their circumstances. So I always tell my clients it's not just the price, it's the term.
Mhm. It's, yeah, the whole picture.
So the
Exactly.
whole package, and I think I think agents are not explaining that well to their clients. And you see these agents, and I've had agents under me that are very frustrating and like, do you not understand the words coming out of my mouth? Like, it's like you can't, it's not a brush, it's not a one and done. And I think people think they can just come in and like broad brush everything in a situation. It's not the same for every house is a house, right? Every person's a person, it's like a fingerprint. And so you have to
Mhm.
treat each thing that you go through like a fingerprint. You cannot cookie cutter everything to be exactly the same. Like we have our systems, which are great, but things have to be melding back and forth for whoever you're dealing with. And I think that's the art of
Yes.
the experience that why I think it's so important for people to work with seasoned agents
Mhm.
that understand what's going on. I think that's why we've earned the right to have the business done over and over. And when someone doesn't choose me, I go, thank God, because that means they were not going to listen to me and they wanted to do their own thing and they didn't see the value in me, then good, I don't want them. And I think that's important to be able to do that too for people.
Absolutely, it is. Know that the people that pass you by are not meant for you anyway. I will say for agents who are trying to get experience, the
Yes.
better you can get at listening and preparing yourself, the better, the more successful you're going to be, the more
Volunteer,
people you'll be. Volunteer,
show up.
yep, and listen to people's needs. Learn to
Yes.
really listen more than you talk. That's a skill that so few agents have, especially new agents who have been in sales before and who have, or have been in leadership positions where nobody's really given them that feedback or they haven't seen the repercussions. But if you listen first, you gather information and then you can fill the need. There was a quote I heard, I think I shared this with you guys last weekend on our mastermind, that for most people, being heard and being loved are so close in the way they make the person feel that they're almost indistinguishable from one another. So if you can just make someone feel heard by asking good questions and then confirming understanding, and then everything you say thereafter relates to something that they specifically gave you in terms of a
Yeah.
neat piece of information, then you never have to pull out that listing presentation because you're addressing the
No,
need
it's
right
so
there.
true. And you just show
Yeah.
up. And I think new agents, and this is really going to people that are new in the business. I once in a while have people that call me that are new agents, and I'm in a model now that I am not for new agents. I don't have the bandwidth and I don't have the ability to handhold someone right now. But I think back when I did, nobody ever volunteered to do anything for me. No one ever wanted to show up to, I'll do the open house. Can I watch you do something? I will be the one helping you. Like it's like I would
Mhm.
have killed to have not had an opportunity when I started out to shadow someone. I would have done anything. I would
Yeah.
have put their signs in. I would have worked for free to
Mhm.
just be exposed, to hear their conversations, to hear how they
Yeah.
did things. And
Yep.
I think that's a sadness in our world today that everybody wants something for free. And I would say, anybody that's listening to this, be willing to work for free because you're being paid an experience and being exposure and learning by listening and being attached to someone. You're being paid. It's like almost like an internship.
An
Like,
apprentice.
right?
Yeah.
And I had a intern, my little cute Eileen, she interned for me like a year. She came in, she worked for me for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's making like 20 grand a month now
Yeah.
as a UGC creator. And
Yeah.
I love this girl to the moon because she got it.
Yes.
She's like one in a million. And I say, there's not an accident why she's so successful now.
Mhm.
And I say, I
Investment.
challenge
That
people that
time
are
is an
listening,
investment.
right?
Yeah.
Go to your broker, go to whoever your person is now and say, I'll work for free. I know you
Yes.
need admin, I'll
Yeah.
work for free. Because we struggle as top producers in finding good help too, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, and let me add this. If you are somewhere, and I'm Switzerland when it comes to brokerages, but if you are an agent and you are somewhere that you are not being given the opportunity to work for free, meaning to support at an open house, to hold an open house for somebody, to shadow a showing, to listen in on a conversation, I'm going to argue that you should find somewhere else to go.
I would agree. I would agree because I think that if that's what they really believe, I would challenge that that's something they are put in their head. I've never heard of a brokerage not giving those opportunities.
Oh, I have, and I've got a bunch of those agents with me now
Oh,
who were promised that but not getting that. And it's unbelievable to me that that happens. There was a podcast that Tom Ferry just dropped this morning. It was Hannah Dubine, who is she's a 24-year-old top producer doing like 50 some transactions a year. She's unbelievably successful and very good at what she does. But she even said during the podcast, she said,
yeah.
well, you know, the broker doesn't really train you. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh,
Hmm.
what in the world?
They
I
didn't
mean,
train me.
with somebody well, yeah, I guess I actually had a good experience. I had a good broker
Nobody trained me.
training,
I didn't
but
even know how I made it,
that too
girl.
much. Wow. You bootstrapped it. All right, so let's now shift to going for the close because
Okay.
I think this is the place that really, if you can get skilled at this and you can get people to, there's my follow-up boss call, you can get people to want to work with you because you are closing them in a
Yeah.
way that doesn't feel salesy.
No.
And you have it in your hands to succeed. So the reason people, I think, anyway, you tell me, Alicia, what you think. I think the reason that people fail to go for the close is that same reason that people fail to do many things, which is that the fear of the pain of failure is worse than the perception of the pleasure that might follow should they succeed. Because the fear of rejection feels like death to most
Yeah.
people. They so are afraid of hearing the no, they won't even go for the yes. So you mentioned earlier that there are like some soft closes or test closes that you do following up. So I want to take three different scenarios and kind of walk people through these. So let's go first with the buyer consultation. You're sitting down with a buyer, you've consulted with them, you found out what their wants and needs are, and you're ready to pull the paperwork out. How do you know, Alicia, that it's time to do that, first of all?
Well, I know before we even meet in person, number
Oh,
one.
okay. Talk me through
So
that.
when someone calls me and says, "Hey, we got your name. We'd like to, we want to figure out, we want to buy a house. What's next?" I reach out and I say, first of all, you're going to need to reach out to your lender. If you don't have one, I have a couple to give you. I give them. That's number one. We need to know what your buying power is because it's a waste of everyone's time. And we have to have that. Second, in our state, you are required to be a client of mine in order us to look at anything. So I like to do a buyer consult. So, this is where we would do the paperwork. I can send the paperwork to you, but we're going to go over it and that'll be signed at the table when we meet. So they're like, great. So I send everything over to them. We set an appointment. They come. I just had one this past weekend. And, I build rapport. They come in, they tell me what their wants, what they love, what their dreams are, and typically how they were referred to me. We kind of engage in that way. And then I go through the whole buyer presentation about it's important to look at the neighborhoods, like what's important to you, the things I can tell them and not tell them. We're a buyer beware state. We go through all the paperwork and I'm like, this is how I'm paid. You do not have to buy any property that's not going to pay me. We'll move on to the next. Or you can pay me. You can make that decision up, but this is how I'm paid. And
Mhm.
this is what it is. And all right, great. And they sign it and we move on.
Okay.
And
So
then
you're
we
trying to
book,
get
I don't,
expectation ahead of time that they're
yeah.
going to sign the paperwork with you
It's
during.
all printed out. They
Okay.
come and meet with me. And sometimes if they are like, hey, can we just do it electronically and meet you at the house? Great. Send it straight to them. Sometimes I do a Zoom presentation. If they're out of time, I do that. I walk through the whole contract. I walk through a purchase contract. I'm like, this is where I would be paid. This is where the money's going to go. And it's negotiable, just like anything else. But if there's four offers and you really want this house, you can pay me my comp or we can try to ask for it and increase the price. It's really that, it's all there is to it. But
Mhm.
I'm getting paid. And I
Okay.
don't like hide, I don't hide. Like that's what it is. And I'm like, unfortunately, I wouldn't want to go out on my own and buy my own house. I, as an agent, wouldn't even buy a house in a different state without an agent. Would
Mhm.
you? I wouldn't.
Never.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't. I would be like, I don't think I'm going to do that. So why would you do that if you're a brand new buyer? You don't even know who to ask for an inspection. You don't know what to ask. You don't even know what you're doing. And then you're going to go get the listing agent to represent you. I'm like, that's a bad idea. So we talk about that. We talk about the pros and cons. And I'm like, listen, you guys can do what you want to do, but you came to me. I would love to represent you. You're a client for life once you work for me, and you'll see why, I was referred many times over. That's why they're there. So again,
Mm-hmm.
that's it's like a built-in trust when I work with people, and this is why the power of referral is so important. So
Mm-hmm.
once the trust check is there, they look at you as the authority because I am the authority. I know what I'm doing. I've earned the right to know what I'm doing. So I'm going to speak as an authority, and this is what you're going to do. And you sign here. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Is
So
that?
you're asking pretty directly. Okay. And you've got the referral coming in, which helps. Now, if you're a brand new agent who
Yes.
is afraid, and I do have people on my team who we have to like work through this, here's what I've been finding really is helpful to them
Yes.
is they're going through their consultation, they're really focused on asking questions and getting to a good point of understanding about what the client wants. And then they use a couple of test closes before they pull the paperwork out. So they'll say something like, hey, so Alicia, I think we're at the point where I've reviewed the entire process. Do you feel like you have a good understanding of what the process is going to look like? And you'll say yes, usually. Do you have a good understanding of what it takes to win in a competitive market situation? You feel like we went through that thoroughly enough? Okay. And then something like, well, I feel like I've got a great understanding of what you're looking for in a home and how I can make that happen for you. Do you agree? And then you'll usually say yes. And then I'll say, okay, how would you like to proceed? So that's the Terry Show Dean close is how would you like to proceed? And that's been working really well. And if they're like, well, what's the next step? Well, the next step is the buyer agency paperwork. I have it right here for you, or you can click through the DocuSign or whatever it is. So that for some reason, that how would you like to proceed has
Yeah.
such a beautiful, elegant phrase, and it's really been effective for my agents.
That's lovely. It's so funny because I'd be like, well, you have to sign it.
But you've gotten to that point in your career, and
I'm
that's
like, what do you mean? How would
valid.
you want to go see a house? Then you need to sign this. It's all there is. You're gonna have to sign it with someone. So why would
Yeah.
you want to? I was like, hello, you're obviously gonna work with me. I mean, I make a joke even about it. Well, you gotta sign. Let's go. So you want to see a house, you gotta sign.
So know your personality. And that absolutely, if that works for you,
I
that's
think that's
great.
what it is. Or it's like, what's it gonna take? This is one of my favorite. What's it gonna take for you to move forward?
Mm,
What's it going to take? What's it going to take for us to get this house on the market? What's it going
mhm,
to take for you to move forward with me to work to represent you? Because I would love to represent you, but
mhm.
you're going to have to sign this paperwork to move forward. You're going to have to sign it with anybody, just so you know, heads up.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
do you want to work with me or do you want to work with the loser over there?
All right, so let me take you to the buyers in the house. And this is
Yeah.
another kind of like eternal challenge, I feel like happens with a lot of agents, even experienced agents. When
Yes.
you go through the house, you've seen the whole thing, they seem to be giving you buying signals, they're talking about where they're going to place the dining room, furniture, and all of that. And you're like, okay, they're going to write an offer on this house, right? You get to the foyer, and the people are like, and you're like, okay, and the people are like, well, we like it. And you're like, so what do you think? Well, yeah, we like it. We think we want to sleep on it, right? And then for me as a team leader, my agent comes back and I say, so what happened? How'd it go? They loved the house. They were like sitting in the dining room, placing their furniture. I'm like, so you're gonna write an offer? They want to sleep on it. And I'm like, because the agent didn't ask for the close.
What's it going to take for you to write an offer on the house? That's all you got to say.
What's it gonna take? I
Because
like
that's
that.
when you're going
Because
to hear, oh, well, it's too expensive, or I don't think it has this, or it's missing this, or it's too much money, or you haven't figured out what they're really wanting. So I had a client
Think
very
of,
similar to that. We kept seeing these houses in the perfect neighborhood, and they seemed like they loved every single house. And it was one of my colleagues. She was like, "Girl, you need to have a meeting with them. You need to have a come to Jesus because something's not right." I was
hmm,
like, "Dang, you're right, girl." So I called them. I was like, "We need to have a meeting." And so they're like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Guys, all right, we've seen all these houses. What's going on?" And
yeah.
what it came down to was more than what they wanted to spend. But where they
Mm,
wanted to live only had these houses. I said, "All right, that's cool, but then we're not going to look at it anymore for this price anymore because you keep saying I love them, but they're not the one."
yeah.
So then we finally, one came up just a little over a million mark. And I said, this is what we got, dudes. This is it. Either you want this, nothing's going to be less than this. So let's go for it. So they went for it and we wrote an offer and that was it. So that's what it was. You see what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So
Yeah,
you got to figure out there's sometimes they don't, an amiable, see, disc again, an amiable client's not going to tell you they don't want to hurt your feelings and they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So you got to say, what's it going to take for you to write an offer now? Because I would
yeah.
hate for you to sleep on it and not be here tomorrow. Because tonight, if we submit, we may not have to compete, but tomorrow we may.
Yes. And that's such a good close too, is if you speak to the people, and you're exactly right. What I find is probably 80% plus of the time in a situation where the person wants to sleep on it, they just don't want to tell you no. Like
No,
that's a you
they really don't want it, or
yeah,
the husband wants it and the wife doesn't, and they don't
right,
want to fight,
right,
and so it's not the house for you.
right.
So
And then
instead
the
of like
agent goes
us,
back and
yeah,
spends their time writing a
yeah,
drafting an offer that the person's never going to sign.
no, it's
Or
just
if they
saying,
do it,
just
it's a
say, all
low
right,
ball.
let's go to the next.
Yeah,
Let's go to the
exactly.
next. They gotta want the house, otherwise they're gonna use everything to get out of the house later on. That's a bigger
That's
nightmare.
so true. That's even worse. Yeah. Yeah. And you're exactly right. If you get to the point where you've shown a house that you know is the house that checks all the boxes and they're not willing to proceed, then you have to come back and go, okay, we need to come back and have like a circle back consultation because I missed something and take it out, blame yourself. Say, there's something I'm not understanding because I really thought, guys, that this was going to be the one. So
I
tell me,
showed the perfect house to you,
what am
has
I
every single
missing?
box checked. What's
Right.
up
What
with
am
you?
I missing? What am I?
Yeah,
Well, and I take it on myself. Like, what am I missing? What did I miss here? And sometimes it's they had another conversation and now they need to stay in a different price point, or it's they
yes.
realized whatever, something different
Or
that
they
I
wanted
didn't know.
different, I had one person that was like, there's not a window in the bathroom. What the hell? But apparently that was the biggest thing that hung
Right. You wouldn't
the
have known.
craziest stuff,
And
girl.
it's
And
like,
you're like,
could you
what
put
the
a window in the
hell?
bathroom? Like that's the other thing. Sometimes it's to them it's an obstacle, and you're like, you know how much it costs to put a window in the bathroom? Like not even $5,000 probably.
I
It's
just
does that
I
make a
can't.
difference to you? Yeah. All right. So now let's go to and let me say on this one really quickly. Again, we've used the how would you like to proceed on this? So simply, okay, so this house has, it seems to check all these things. You said to me that your major needs were one, two, three, four. This hits all the major needs and even one of the things you put on your wants list, right? It's got all the
Yeah.
things. So it seems to me this is checking your boxes. How would you like to proceed? And then if it's well, we want to sleep on it, sometimes I'll just call it right out and I'll say, like, when I hear that, that usually means you really don't want this house. So I want to make sure because to your point, Alicia, if you wake up the next morning and this house is now pending and you missed it, how devastated are you? Scale of 1 to 10. Tell me right now. And if they're like five, I'm like, then let's go. This is not the house you want. If it's a 10, it's like, then we need to write on this house because you just told me that you're going to be devastated if this isn't yours. So let's go figure out how to make this work for you. All right, we have like 2 more minutes, but I want to go to the listing close. So you're at the listing consultation. You're at this point, and I think this is the place that's almost the scariest for an agent to ask for the close. And I think it's the place the closes missed the most. So you've gone through the consultation, you've asked all the questions, you've bonded well, you've got great rapport. You know you can get this house sold better than any other local agent can get it sold and fulfill these sellers' needs. In fact, you probably have a slate of buyers already waiting for this house. And you get to that point where you're ready to pull the paperwork out. And you're like, and most agents go, so any questions I haven't answered for you yet? Okay, great. Well, okay, so what would you like to do? What are your thoughts, right? Okay. And they don't ask for the close. So Alicia, how do you do
Oh, girl, I get sun. I
it?
like I asked for the keys up front.
Yes, so I love
Because
that.
they're
So
giving me a
love
key.
that.
They're signing the listing.
All
I
right,
got
so
the
I want you
key.
to like as though I'm your seller. So we're at
Yeah.
that point and you're
So
like
we've
ready
already
to rock
walked through
and
the
roll.
house. I've taken all
Yep.
the notes. We've gone through the comps. We talked about pricing. And I'm like, listen, I don't want to put a price till right before coming soon. This is the schedule. This is the due date. When do you want to get it on the market? We put everything on the calendar. These are the dates. I'm like, I need the keys. what contractors do you need? I send them the contractors. I say, all right, well, I'm gonna need, let's go ahead and sign all the paperwork now. So I have everything ready to go and I have the keys and I'll be booking I'll let you know when the photographer's booked and we'll put the price out. I'll run the comps one last time before we're gonna put in coming soon on this date.
So you
It's
asked
as
for the
easy as
keys
that.
first. Wow. Okay. So that's I like that. That's bold. Once you
Like
said,
it is what it's done. And I go over the commission. I go, this is what I'm paid. It's
mm-hmm,
even better now with the NAR stuff. This is what I'm paid. Now, if I
mm-hmm,
have a non-representative hire, this is
better.
what I'm paid. And this
Yeah.
is what this is. Now,
Yep.
if you want to negotiate the comp, we can negotiate with the buyer side. And if they give you what they want, then you pay them. If they don't, then you don't have to pay them.
Now, what if you're in a situation where the person pushes back and they're like, we said we were going to talk to three agents or we're not quite ready yet. What do you do then?
I'm like, well, what's it going to take? What exactly do you need to talk about that you need to talk with three agents about? I'm just curious. What is it that you're wanting more that I'm not giving you in this moment? And they're
Hmm.
like, well, we just want to do our due diligence. That's great. Okay. Well, so I can't really book anything until I know. So, is there something I'm not providing you that you're wanting to move forward on?
Mhm.
And most of the times, and if they don't want to pick me, I'm like, that's cool. I'm really fine with that,
Have fun.
honestly,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I just don't have any time for that drama. I have learned over the years that the people that you have to strong arm into selling with you, they don't trust you for some reason, or you're not the favorite. It's
Yeah.
that full fee agent book. You're
Yes.
either
Favorite of the
full or the
small. Yeah.
favorite.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, I'm the favorite.
Yeah.
I don't go
Yeah.
places unless the favorite now. And
Yeah.
when I'm the fool, I already know they're just bringing me in. And so I just go in and I dance and I'm like, okay, cool, bye. I already know. So I don't even try
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
just checking the
So
box. You know,
if you need a softer idea, because that is skilled confidence that you are bringing to the
I
table right
just
now.
don't have any more patience
I
for
know.
that. And I'm going to tell you, people, when you get in and you're doing this business, go in, learn your craft, know the market, know what you're doing. The more confidence you have, I'm telling you, you're going to win everything left. They don't know. They don't know
Absolutely.
how many you sold. They have no idea.
So
These,
true.
these people are, you got lawyers and doctors and these crazy people that are skilled at what they do, but they know nothing about what we do. And so
Mhm.
they look to you to be the expert. If you go on there all uncertain, and one of the things I've been telling people about is when you speak with that sharp authority. You don't speak like,
Mhm.
so what do you think? No, no, no.
Mhm.
That makes
No,
people
right.
very uncomfortable. Like
People want to be led.
they
They want
want to
to
be
be
led.
led.
They want to know, what you need to be certain.
Yeah.
I'm certain this is what we need to do. Do not do this. Do this. Yes, no, yes, no. That is not worth your money. This is worth your money. This is what we're going to do. This is what the market's showing. Be very confident in your wording and let's go. I'm ready to go. You ready to go? Great. Let's sign this paper. We got to get this paperwork out of the way. I don't want to bring you guys in again. It's going to be a nightmare trying to get you two at the same table because it's like everyone's running around busy right now.
Mhm.
Let's get this out of the way.
Yeah.
Because I'm not giving you my resources and guiding you and doing all this without signed paperwork. And
Mhm.
that's the mistake I made in the past is where I got screwed a couple times from doing that.
Yes, which is another good conversation to have is how to, and we'll do that in another episode, how to handle it when someone's trying to kind of pick your brain, you have that feeling, and where to draw
Yep.
the line
Yep.
between oversharing information that should
Mhm.
be yours and given only to people with whom you've had a signed agreement.
You don't work for free.
No, no. That was great. I love that. And I think too, if you speak with that kind of authority, you tell people exactly what needs to happen, you're fulfilling
Yes.
their needs. And I'm going to add one more thing in here real quickly before we wrap is if you can get a good sense of what the seller is looking for in an agent and what their goals are through the transaction, and then you can match your service to what they need, then
Absolutely.
you have the authority to say, okay, well, you told me you needed this, 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 and this. I've shown you how I can do all of those things for you and more. So the next step to me, it seems, makes sense for you is for us to go ahead and sign the listing paperwork. How would you like to proceed? Right? It's a no-brainer. No-brainer.
Yep.
Good, 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 good. Alicia, this was such great info today. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your experience. You're always dropping the nuggets
I
of
know BS.
you.
You're very much more kind than me. I'm like, I don't know. I've just
Well,
turned
there,
savage
but
as I've
also
gotten
shows you
older.
there are different styles, there are different ways of being successful and getting the job done. So you find yours and stay in
It's
that
so
lane.
true. And I
Yeah,
think that like I know that I'm kind and nurturing and loving and supportive with all my clients and stuff, but
yeah.
I just don't tolerate it. I just can't. I'm like, goodbye.
Well, and the people that work with you love you and understand all that about
Yeah.
you.
And they
So,
also know like I don't have time for it. Like you don't have time for that anymore. Like we've done this way too long to deal with people like that.
That is true. It is true. And I would argue that no matter how long you've done this, you've been in life too long to deal with people who
Yes,
don't
yes,
respect you.
yes,
So respect
very
yourself.
much.
All right. Thank you so much for all of this, Alicia. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions for us specifically, find us online. Alicia has a great YouTube channel too. You can check her out on her YouTube channel. And you can find us on Instagram
Yeah.
and Facebook.
Oh yeah, it's the Empowered Woman with Alicia. That's what
Oh,
it's
I
called.
love it. I love it. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Wishing you empowerment and successful sales this spring market. This has been So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent. We'll see you next time.